everyone, welcome back. Today we're starting a beginner-friendly mini-series where we'll go step by step through simple watercolor paintings like these. These projects are designed to help you practice the basic watercolor skills such as wet on wet, wet on dry, blending, shadows, highlights, and more. To make it super easy for you, I've also put together these free sketches that you can find on my website. You can download and print them at home so you don't have to worry about drawing. You can just focus on the fun of painting. Let's get started with these mini projects for fall. So this right here is my Winsor Newton watercolor paints that I have taken from the tube and put it inside this palette that I got off of Amazon. I have a tapping cloth right here. It's always good to have one. That way you don't have excess water on your page. I also have my 2 water cups right here. One I use for cool paints and one I use for my warmer paint colors. I also have right here my dryer. I like to use this to speed up the process between layers. These are the brushes that I use. These are the silver black velvet. I have size 12, 4, and 8, and these are the round tip brushes. I'm using this painting as an example. I always like to have painter's tape on hand. I like to paint down my paintings. It's easier to 1, film, and 2, also just keep everything from moving around and it getting a little messy. It also helps to protect your desk, which you'll see mine is very worn, so it definitely does help with that. Get started with painting this apple. You're going to come in with some water. My water is a little muggy just because I didn't change it over to some fresh water, but I just kept painting along. We're going to do the wet on wet technique, which is when we have a wet surface and then we paint on top of it with another wet surface, which will be my reds and my yellows. So we do this because of what you see right now in my video. It creates some very nice soft blends within our colors and there's no streaks. So right here I mixed in a little bit of cadmium yellow with just a little bit of cadmium red, but it's primarily yellow here because I wanted that to be a lot of my white source, and apple just isn't just red, so I wanted to introduce a different color as well. And then I mixed in a very vibrant cadmium red here, but because there's water down on the page, it just changes the value of it, so it's a lot softer and it starts to bleed into that yellow a little bit as well. So I'm focusing here to making sure my edges are what's going to be very vibrant. It's going to be the curve of the apple, and then the center I want to keep it nice and bright to be my highlight here. And because this is already wet, you'll see that the red is bleeding into the yellow is bleeding into the red. So it's just trying to make sure you don't have too much water down, otherwise you won't have as much control as what you would like. Once the apple is completely covered, you'll see that I'm just coming in here again with very vibrant reds just to create some different tones within it. And I mix a little bit of purple into my red. That's a really good shadow color. I really like mixing red and purple together. I'm going towards the core of the apple as well, just putting a nice shadow in there and then putting this purple maroon color towards my edges as well. So this to me looks like a really good first layer. I have highlights, I have shadows, and I also have a mixture of reds and yellows. So I'm going to go ahead now and dry it entirely before moving on to my second layer. And for my second layer, I'm going to do the wet on wet technique again, and this is really going to make my apple just pop because the colors underneath are my base colors and they're always going to shine through. So you'll see I'm applying water again over top, and because it's dry, nothing's really going to be moving the color wise. And I'm going to come in with a very bright and vibrant red, and you'll see already that red is so bright, so vibrant, and that's exactly what we want. We want that base underneath to really just help amplify these colors. So I'm coming in here with my red, and I'm going to be kind of copying what I did before, just adding some more shadows, but then also making sure that I'm leaving space for my highlights as well. So you'll see here I'm coming in again with that maroon color, focusing towards my edges a little bit in the middle and then that core as well, just making sure I have those shadow colors down. But you'll also see that I've left room for a nice highlight. I'm now adding in a little bit more of that cadmium yellow just to have that change of color within my apple, adding a little bit more shadow because the colors kept bleeding together until I'm pretty happy with how my apple looks. Once you're happy with your apple, you can go ahead and start drying it like I am, making sure everything is 100% dry before moving on to anything else. So next I'm going to mix up a little bit of brown for my little stem here, and then I'm also going to be mixing in a nice green color for my leaf. So I'm mixing sap green with a little bit of yellow and a little bit of red in there as well, and then I'm just filling in my leaf shape. I can also do a nice scoop with a damp brush to get a nice highlight in there, or you can leave it how it is. I added a little bit of green as well into my stem and some darkness just to give my stem a little bit of pop and definition. And now I'm going in with the wet on dry technique. This is when you apply wet paint onto a dry surface, and this will give you depth and dimension within your page. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please check out my other videos. Happy painting!